All right, it appears everyone is in from the waiting room. Thank you very much for joining us, our Festival Grant Program workshop. My name is Sharif Bobby. I'm the HAA Grants Coordinator and Data Analyst. And once again, thank you, and we welcome you. So I will, let's get started with some staff introductions. I'll pass it off to Taylor.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Taylor Jackson. I am the Director of Grants at Houston Arts Alliance. Really excited to have you all here today. I hope that you receive the information that we provide around the Festival Grant Program. Please ask questions and also know that post this workshop, we are here to support you and any needs that you might have in working to complete your application. So don't hesitate to reach out to myself or the rest of the team if you need support beyond today. Thank you again for being here.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Kalina Payne. I'm the Senior Grants Manager here at HAA, and I echo the same sentiments as Taylor. If you need anything from us, we are available to assist you in any way throughout your application process. So don't hesitate to reach out. And thanks so much for joining us today.
I want to be done talking about it.
All right, thank you both. Thank you. So once again, I'm Sharif Rabi, the Grants Coordinator and Data Analyst here at Houston Arts Alliance. And I'm going to start with a slideshow and a presentation and introduce ourselves to you all, tell you a little bit about us, and then we'll get started on festival grant program specific information, how to apply, and how to make your applications as successful as possible. Afterwards, we'll have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, if anything just comes to mind during the presentation, just put them in the chat and we're going to collect them all. And at the very end, after the presentation, we'll get to each question and we'll field more questions, anything that comes to mind, and we'll be happy to answer them all for you. So let's dive in. Let me share my screen. All right. Can everyone see my screen okay? Does it look okay? All right, great. Thank you. All right, so as you know, welcome to the informational workshop for the Festival Grant Program. We are Houston Arts Alliance, HAA. We're a local arts and culture organization whose work is to implement the city's vision, values, and goals for its arts grant making and civic art investments. HAA's work is conducted through a contract with the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, which we call MOCA. We also execute privately funded special projects, most notably disaster prep and disaster recovery, as well as arts education equity for Houston students, research on the state of arts in Houston, and temporary public art projects, which vitalize neighborhoods across the city. Like I said, our contract is with MOCA, and the city of Houston provides all funds for our competitive grant programs, including the Festival Grant Program. Funds are sourced from the hotel occupancy tax, which we call HOT, and HOT funds support art and cultural programming that is accessible to the entire Houston public and guests of the city that are created by individual artists, 501c3 nonprofits, and fiscally sponsored programs. These are our funding sources. We get public funding via HOT revenue. Each hotel room booking, there is that HOT tax applied, and that goes to the city of Houston, which allocates that total hotel occupancy tax revenue to Houston First, MOCA, the Mayor's Office of Special Events, and to us, Houston Arts Alliance. Houston Arts Alliance, in turn, allocates those funds to competitive arts grants like Festival, and as well as to the Miller Outdoor Theater and administrative costs. We also receive private funding via organizational and individual donors, and those private funds are allocated to special projects like disaster recovery, like we mentioned. So this is sort of how it works. Hotel bookings generate the hot tax, the hot revenue goes to the city, and the city disperses it to HAA, Houston First, two offices of the mayor, and then HAA reallocates that money to competitive grants in the Miller Outdoor Theater. So when that money is received, 74.5% of that hot allocation is distributed in the form of competitive grants, competitive city-funded grants. The remaining 16.5% is allocated to Miller Outdoor Theater, and 9% is to HAA administrative costs. And that's generally how the funding works. From that almost 3/4 slice of the pie, that's 74.5%, the allocation for the programs goes 36% goes to organizations with operating expenses over $10 million through the Support for Organizations grant. That workshop was yesterday. Maybe some of you were in that one. Another 36% goes to organizations with operating expenses under 10 million, SASE, which is the Support for Artists and Creative Individuals, LCH, Let Creativity Happen, and the Festivals Grant Program. Then 2.5% is allocated to the Cities Initiative Grant Program. The grant programs, Cities Initiative and LCH, their second round just closed. They're available in 3 rounds a year. Their next round, the third one will open September 1st. Then there are 3 annual grants that are only open once a year, and they are SASE, SO, Support for Organizations, and this one, the Festival Grant. Each one, all 3 of these are open now, and they're open through July 30th. As you see, the Festival Grant, the awards are up to $10,000. So the funding for this grant festival, as well as SASE, Support for Artists and Creative Individuals, is they're funded based on cash in hand, while Support for Organizations is funded on projected income, projected hot revenue income that's allocated from the city to HAA. Like I said, they're only available once a year, and the grant term is for 1 year. We'll get into it a little more later, but the grant term is January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. So all of next year. And awardees, grantees will receive a notification by December that they'd been awarded. And the grant term, like I said, will be 2024. So let's get into guidelines. To improve your chances, obviously, please read the guidelines. In the chat, I'm going to drop a link to the festival. I just put it in the messages in the chat. I mean, a link to the festival guidelines. You'll find in that guideline document SO, Support for Artists and Creative Individuals, and festival guidelines. So for all 3 annual programs. But on page 25, as you'll see in the link, it's you'll be able to read the festival guidelines, and reading them is really, really important. The guidelines are available on our website, HoustonArtsAlliance.com/grant-opportunities. And you could view them and download them and use them for general reference anytime you like. Eligibility requirements. So generally, all applicants must provide official documentation demonstrating a physical address in the city of Houston limits. PO boxes are not accepted. Individual applicants have to be at least 18. The scope of the work must have a clear public presentation component that we verify, and that public presentation has to be open to the public. It may be ticketed, but it has to be open to the entire public. Applicants may only submit 1 application per grant program, per deadline, per year. And applicants may only apply to 1 grant program per project. festival specific projects, I'm sure, you know, that they would apply to the festival grant, this grant, and you couldn't apply for a support for organizations grant, for example, for this festival project that you'd be applying to. Applicants must meet additional specific eligibility requirements that are specific to each grant program, and we'll get into those. So the proof of residency in the city of Houston. Once again, that paperwork that demonstrates a physical address in the city of Houston could include things like a utility bill, an insurance document, anything official that demonstrates proof that the organization is inside of the city limits. And in the grant guidelines, as well as in the application, a list of required of acceptable documents is provided. So it's a numerous big list. So there should be pretty wide availability. Opportunity to be able to provide that proof of headquarters or residency. Organizations must provide proof of headquarters with documentation, as we said, mail from a government entity, addressed to the organization, a lease agreement, bank statement, registered agent letter. Again, we have that list on the guidelines and in the application. Fiscal sponsors, if any of you applicants intend on having a fiscal sponsor, they must also provide proof of headquarters. The sponsored applicant must provide proof of residency, and the acceptable documents are the same. And once again, we'll refer to that guidelines list for acceptable documents. So in their organizations can apply under fiscal sponsors. The project or the festival that does not have a federal IRS tax exempt status, in other words, they're not a 501c3 organization, will have an agreement with a fiscal sponsor. The project you'll apply in the online through our grant management platform, which we'll get into later. The project, once in the grant portal, will need to associate their fiscal sponsor to the application. This is done by selecting associated contacts in the menu on the left side of the screen, and must also submit a project budget table for the grant application. And we have screenshots of that coming up a little bit later in this slideshow. Sponsors must be registered organizations in the HAA grants portal. Once you've logged in, you'll complete the organizational profile, and the fiscal sponsor will demonstrate their headquarters within the city of limits. Like, they'll upload acceptable proof of documentation that establishes their headquarters in the city limits. The sponsor's board must pass a resolution approving this fiscal sponsorship arrangement with an applicant. And that written agreement must be uploaded to the grant application. The grant authorizing official must be listed as a contact in the application. So the contact will be the actual recipient of the grant and will receive notifications regarding the festival project. The fiscal sponsor may only charge projects reasonable fees commensurate with the services it will provide. Its overhead fee cannot exceed 7% unless it's providing additional services like accounting. Then their overhead fee may go up to, but cannot exceed 15% of the grant award amount. The fiscal sponsor must have a clear conflict of interest policy in place that contemplates conflicts with sponsored programs and their leadership, and provide clear direction for vetting potential conflicts and otherwise implementing a policy, a conflict of interest policy. The fiscal sponsor may maintain sufficient financial resources to assure continuous uninterrupted operation and employ procedures and controls based on generally accepted accounting principles. And the fiscal sponsor must evaluate the capability, potential, experience, and integrity of the festival applicant to ensure a constructive working relationship between the two. So some requirements of festival applicants. it must be a public event. It must be open to the entire general public, locals and visitors alike, benefiting the city of Houston audiences. The public presentations, like I said, may be ticketed, but they cannot exclude the public or limit who may be a member of the audience. If the event has limited capacity, everyone, i.e. the entire general public, must have equal access or opportunity to attend on a first come, first served basis. Examples of these types of events include art exhibitions, film screenings, music, dance, and other public performance arts, online arts programming, literary readings, publications, and of course, festivals. Nonprofits whose primary programming takes place in K through 12 schools must have a public-facing arts program open to the general public. The programming could be geared to youth audiences, but it must remain accessible to everyone. The applicants will be solely responsible for securing the necessary permits, permissions, insurance, and approvals that require city permits or clearances, including publicly installed art, street closures, sound amplification in public space, murals, things like that. A nonprofit organization whose primary mission is not the public presentation or exhibition of art and culture should focus their grant application on the public-facing arts programs that they're proposing. So these are some of the exclusions when it comes to the grant program. So things that cannot be funded are any activities taking place outside the city limits. That includes the suburbs, Katy or Stafford or Bel Air, for example. Activities must take place within the grant term, that January 1st to December 31st, 2024 grant term for festival. Any activities that are funded by Miller Outdoor Theater, since they're all also supported by the HOT revenue, applicants can't double dip and receive duplicate funding from HOT funding for the same program or the same festival from both HAA and Miller Outdoor Theater. City of Houston employees, board members of HAA, and immediate family are not permitted to apply. Houston Arts Alliance employees, elected officials, mayor's office staff, and their immediate family are not permitted to apply. Grants to K through 12 public, private, or charter schools are not permitted. Events with exclusive audiences that do not allow participation to the general public, including visitors to Houston, are excluded. And grant funds cannot support competitions, award ceremonies, scholarships, cash prizes, fundraising, sports or recreation activities or events, or parties or private celebrations. Applications may not support multiple grants may not support multiple submissions from different applicants for the same exact festival. Multiple submissions to the same grant program from the same organization or individual applicants aren't permitted either. Grants may not support trade fairs, events that are primarily commercial in nature or consumer shows. For-profit entities may not apply directly. Again, it has to be a 501c3 organization or either the applicant or the fiscal sponsor. The fiscal sponsor is responsible for reviewing and verifying the festival to identify a clear purpose and public benefit within the proposed festival programming. Faith-based organizations using funds for any activities which have a primarily religious purpose or activities that exist as part of religious sermons or services are excluded from grant funding. And so are any activities receiving funds from other HAA grant programs, including collaborators applied to work on different components of the same project. Organization and or individual applicants collaborating on the same project or same festival cannot separately apply to support to fund the collaborative program or festival. Other requirements, as we'll get into a bit later, in the grant application, the applicants will be required to submit W-9 and ACH forms through DocuSign, so that just forms for contracts and payment processing, if the application is granted. Fiscally sponsored applicants must upload a copy of the fiscal sponsorship agreement with the festival applicant in the Smart Simple grant portal. Applicants must also upload documentation of their work meant to demonstrate excellence in the proposed project. So work samples. Applicants can include up to 5 image or audio files and 5 PDFs, 10 in total. These work samples are really, really important, so that the panelists who ultimately deliberate and adjudicate, these applications, understand what the applicant wants to do, what the applicant has done before, and what the applicant could achieve. The PDFs, PDFs can include images, links for audio or video samples, fiction or nonfiction manuscripts, literary samples, articles, and other publications. For festivals, I presume that images, audio, and video will be very important to the panelists to see as your work samples, to demonstrate, again, your prior experience and your ability to pull off the festival. So let's talk about the grants. So we use a grants management platform called Smart Simple. And that website is haa.smartsimple.com. The links are all over our website. But I'll drop a link in the chat too. So if you've applied before for a festival grant or any grant before, you can just log in with the same email and password, or you could register and create an account that way. This is what the welcome screen looks like. You'll have my profile, organization profile, and festival applicants will, if you scroll down just a bit, we'll see that says Festival 2021, but it will say Festival 2024, what's circled in yellow, and you'll click there to apply, and you'll begin the application, which is really, really simple, really simple. Smart Simple. So who uses the budget template? The budget, all festival applicants are required to submit a budget. So SO applications and festival SASE, I think virtually every applicant has to submit a budget table, and this is kind of what it looks like. It's much it's a little bit easier on the Smart Simple platform. It would have that left-hand column there, and then you would put a description of your expense, the amount, and how you would use that money. And you would use, so the income and expense table, as it says, you'll use that to report the full cost of your proposed arts and cultural programming or festival. If you're recommended for funding, the award amounts will follow the guidelines for the specific grant program, in this case, festival. So in this section of the budget table in Smart Simple, it's really pretty simple. You'll, in each row, contributed City of Houston, you'll list your request under the amount request column, that dollar figure, that dollar amount. In the next rows, you'll list other funding sources, which is under other funds. And those columns will all automatically calculate the sum, which will appear in the row labeled total. Be sure to review the what may not be funded section of the grant guidelines. I know I covered them super quickly, but you can read them. It's a really comprehensive list of what can't be funded, if it's scholarships or sporting events or whatnot, what can and can't be funded for festival grants. That also includes capital expenses. It includes equipment up to a certain dollar figure. So read those guidelines really carefully and make sure that you know what isn't and isn't eligible to be used to use grant funds on. Once again, each row, you'll add additional details about the income or expenses at each line and each row. This is a list of more things that aren't permitted, more expenses. We covered it, travel outside of the city of Houston, but that includes the festival obviously has to be in the city of Houston limits. Deficits, loans, interest on loans, fines, penalties, cost of litigation, obviously not eligible to be used to be funded by the grant money, the grant award. Training, including but not limited to classes, conferences, or workshops, are not eligible permitted expenses. Purchase of equipment exceeding $250 are not permitted except for rental costs directly affiliated with the festival. Capital expenses, meals, refreshments, and catering expenses as well. So you've got that all down, you've submitted an application, and this is what your festival application this is what will happen to it. So first, we'll receive that application, we'll verify eligibility, make sure that your headquarters are within the city of Houston, for example. We'll make sure that the application is complete. We'll make sure that it checks off all the public presentation requirements and that and other scores of objective criteria. Then if it's eligible, it moves on to the peer panel review. But before that, I want to say that we do give applicants a chance to cure the application. So if we do find an error or something missing, you will be notified and you'll have every chance to repair the application to make sure that that it's eligible, and we'll move on to panels. So we use a competitive peer review process to score and rank eligible grant applications. Panels are made up of individuals of diverse experiences, self-identities, artistic backgrounds, real experts in their field to evaluate and score each grant application. The peer panel, after they review and score them, we take the recommendations and we forward it to our HAA grants committee. The committee, once they sign off on it and the HAA board signs off on it, the recommendations are then sent to the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, and MOCA will receive final approval by the mayor. And that's the life cycle of an application. It's really pretty clear. How we review grant applications. So like I said, we study and analyze each one for completedness. And then if we find any errors or any incomplete fields or issues with the application, we will give the applicant every chance to cure it. So any applications with missing or incorrect documentation will be notified to rectify it. Staff will notify those applicants with missing or incorrect documentation via email. The email notification will provide applicants the opportunity to cure or fix the missing or incorrect application within 4 business days from the date of notification. Applicants may only be prompted to cure things like ineligible or unacceptable proof of age, unacceptable or illegible proof of residency, missing financial assessment documentation, and things like that. I mean, because there are some things that can't be fixed. For example, if the festival applicant just wasn't headquartered in the city of Houston, there are some things that aren't fixable, but anything that is fixable, we will work with the applicant to make sure that we can. Applications will not be reopened to correct narratives, to upload new work samples, to change responses to questions or alter the budget table. No information will be accepted after the curing deadline, as indicated in the notification email. And if an applicant failed to submit the correct documentation within the time frame, they would be ineligible. But any concerns regarding eligibility determination should be, we can help resolve those one way or another. Just reach out to us through our phone number or create a support desk ticket and we will be in touch. I'll drop the links too for those in the chat right after this presentation. So getting into more about how the grant applications are reviewed. Like I said, we don't actually review them. HAA staff doesn't, we don't review the applications. We just make sure that they're complete and that they're eligible. They go to the panels. The panels are community-based members with arts expertise and independent of HAA, and they review them and score them all. The competitive peer review process scores and ranks eligible grant applications, a long-time national practice of engaging community representative with arts expertise to make critical decisions about public funding. The panel's ranked scores are then combined with an objective measure in the application to determine the final ranking on a 100-point scale. A description of each 100-point scale can be found within the guidelines. It's also in the application. It will have a score breakdown for each section. So that's after we verify eligibility, it moves on to the peer panel and they score and rank each application. The process removes HAA staff and board and immediate family from the evaluation of the grant applications entirely, except for just the objective scoring sections. Panels include individuals with a diversity of skills, self-identities, arts expertise, and experience, ensuring that they're able to properly assess the merit of each application requesting city funding. And HAA invites everyone with arts expertise to be a part of the panelist database, the online application program. I'll also drop that link in the chat. It's really, we compile the demographic data too into a dashboard, which we published very, very soon on the website for last year. And you could take a look and see how the, you know, where the panelists come from, if they're local or they're regional, what their arts expertise is. It's really, really interesting. And I'm a data analyst, so I really, really like that stuff. So yeah, the panels are really, really incredible. And joining a panel, you not just get to help applicants get funded, you know, have their projects funded, but you get to see the process from the inside so that the next time you apply, if it's a festival grant or any grant, you would have this like inside, you know, sort of scoop on how it works, what panelists talk about, and, you know, what, you know, assessing the merit of each application really looks like. So I really, really encourage everyone to apply to become a panelist. So the HAA committee and board, I mentioned that after we compile that recommendation packet from the panels and we send it to them. The peer panel recommendations are forwarded to the grants committee. They review and vote to ensure that the panel process was followed with integrity and in compliance with our contract with the city. The committee does not alter the recommendations from the panel's adjudication whatsoever. And once they're approved by the grants committee, then those recommendations are forwarded to MOCA for final approval by the mayor. And the recommendations are not final until the city of Houston puts a stamp of approval on it. So this is a festival workshop. Let's get into the festival. Festival grantees, as I said, have 1 year to fulfill their grant agreement. That's January 1st to December 31st, all of 2024. Once the grant term has ended, the grantee will have, hopefully you, have 30 days to complete their final report, which is due the last day in January of 2025. The festival grant program provides support of up to $10,000 to fund arts festivals or arts components of cultural festivals to celebrate Houston's diversity and promote the city's creative identity as a unique art and cultural destination. Festivals allow communities to share their artistic and cultural traditions, which can create vibrant opportunities and experiences for residents and visitors alike. The grant is funded by cash in hand. A festival is defined as an annual or twice-a-year celebration, an immersion around a unifying theme or programmatic focus. They feature a varied and curated program of events. They occur within a specific condensed time, such as one day or over a week, and they're open to the general public. The application must meet one of 3 financial reporting requirements. Organizations and fiscally sponsored programs who have at least 1 year of financial history must generate and submit a funder report from a third-party financial reporting platform called SMU Data Arts. And the sponsored program must complete a program-specific budget within the application, which we kind of covered. Fiscally sponsored programs with no previous financial history must submit a budget table in the online application in SmartSimple, and the fiscal sponsor should submit the funder report through SMU Data Arts. First-year organizations with no previous financial history or have an IRS tax exemption less than 1 year old, recently became a 501c3, must submit a budget table in SmartSimple. A fiscal sponsor must complete the cultural data profile, the CDP, through SMU Data Arts for the fiscal year ending in 2022. While only 1 year is required, the platform will share with HAA up to 3 years of data if it's available. SMU Data Arts uniformly collects data about arts organizations, finances, and programs. This uniformity allows for useful data analysis about the field locally and nationally. The cultural data profile is the flagship service. It enables organizations to view trends in its own history and benchmark against peers through reliable and comprehensive data on the arts in Houston. To learn more about SMU and get familiar with the program, with the platform, there is an orientation video, and that's 5 links. I will also include a link to the SMU Data Arts platform in the chat. So the SMU is really, really easy to use. To generate a cultural data profile, you would gather your relevant financial materials, program materials, staff information, and then you would log in and create a cultural data profile for the fiscal year ending in 2022. Review your data and generate the City of Houston funder report, and that shares it with the City of Houston and with us ultimately. Be sure to generate the funder report for the grant program to which your organization is applying, so you'd make sure that you would generate it for a festival grant. Once you've generated the funder report for the City of Houston, we'll retrieve that report, and it's important to note that once you have generated it and you've sent it to us, if there was any information you had to fix or correct or change or alter in any way, you'll have to regenerate the report and then resubmit it to the City of Houston. Yeah, so I'll make sure that you have all the SMU information too. So I mentioned that each section of the application is scored. There's a scoring. Let me see what's in the chat. Oh, okay. Great. Okay, good. SMU link. So thank you for that. So the guidelines really break down the scoring, but we'll cover them sort of quickly. Artistic programming, the key themes and primary purpose of the festival, that's 45 points. The public benefit to City of Houston locals and visitors is 30%. Then the other 25 is the stewardship of public resources, how the grant money is used ultimately. So artistic programming, that 45 points, you would use in 300 words. What are the key activities that take place during the festival? What's the core program and theme? How many days are in the festival? What are the hours of the festival? How long has the festival existed? What is the history of the festival, if it's existed before? if it's not new, provide the schedule for artistic programming occurring for the duration of the festival. Describe the exhibitors, presenters, and artists and other collaborators involved, or the key artists involved. Describe what they'll contribute to the festival. If the festival artists are not yet secured, provide information about who the organization plans to feature in the festival. Being really specific with this stuff is really important to panelists. They really want to understand what the festival is about and who's participating, and it's just important not to really just skip over these questions. Just really fleshing it out in the application is really important. Next, the public benefit. It's broken into two sections. So 15 points, marketing and service. Describe the target community or communities and explain how the organization engages them. You know, their key constituency. What is the organization's marketing strategy? And does the organization partner with tourism related industries such as event spaces or restaurants? And how and with whom does the organization build partnerships to expand the reach of the festival? Program variety. Does the proposed project foster artistic expression in and reflective of historically underserved communities defined by race, culture, sexual orientation, gender variance, or nationalities? Program's location. In what ways does the festival create access across levels of ability, lived experience, geography, and other diversities? Does the festival serve a historically underserved community by identity or identities of race, culture, sexual orientation, gender, or nationalities? And what have you learned about your digital audience? Where are they from and when are they most engaged with the content? The overall proposed project timeline and budget table, really important here, big part of the application. Describe the overall proposed timeline for the festival, including the expected timeline for development and execution and final public presentation. Include details about how the project budget and include details about the budget and a short description of how the city grant funds would be used. The application asks about artist fees. Can the festival demonstrate an investment in individual artists and artistic practice through the payment of artist fees? And this is objective criteria that's not scored by the panel. I think I mentioned before that there is an objective criteria besides eligibility verification. That's something that the HAA grants team is tasked with. This is the sort of timeline. So the grant period opened June 26th, you probably know. It closes July 30th. After July 30th, and nothing is accepted. So make sure the application is all fully complete. You've cured your documents, your application, if there were any errors, by July 30th. We have a roughly 3-week, 2.5 week verification period that where we review each application just for eligibility. Then the panelists will convene in September, and they will review and finalize those award recommendations and their scores on each application. By late October, the award recommendations packet is prepared and submitted to the grants committee, and they will review and approve it in November. In December, it goes to MOCA to review and approve, and ultimately, if the mayor approves it, then the grants are awarded and grantees are notified in beginning mid-December. After acceptance, hopefully you are all grantees, and once you sign your contract, the grants department will send your first payment to the finance department. Processing of the first payment takes about 2 weeks. When the application when the project is finished, submit your grant documentation, like your final report. And then the final payment will come after approval of the final report. So the payments 1, 2, and 3, then final report, then fourth and final payment. After acceptance, the grant term is 1 year from award notification. The final report is due 30 days after the grant term. Like I said, January 30th, 2025 will be when the final report is due. Yeah, the final report is really, really simple. Just include some work samples, show us images, attach links or videos that show the festival, that speak to what the programming was. Include a financial report, list the expenses and what was covered by the grant funds. And make sure that you post the event on the cultural events calendar. It's important, and it's a requirement of grantees to post it to the cultural events calendar so that we can help market and broadcast your event far and wide across Houston. And also include marketing materials, include the proof that the City of Houston seal and credit line was used in promotional and marketing materials. It's also a requirement. Those are easily downloadable, and image crediting the city for helping in part fund the festival. After acceptance, we spoke, you will submit a final report by January 30th, 2025. And today was the festival workshop. Yesterday was support for organizations. We have the Cities Initiative and Let Creativity workshop up on our YouTube page. The SO will follow, so will this one, and the SASE, Support for Artists and Creative Individuals grant program workshop, is tomorrow. Maybe some of you are sitting in on that too, I don't know. But ultimately, they'll all be available. All these presentations will be available online for everybody. And now we are at the Q&A. So let's see what questions were compiled. Oh yeah, I do want to mention that if you have any questions at all, call us at this phone number. I'll just leave the screen up here for a second. Call us at this number. It's also on the website, the footer of every single page on the website. You can find our number and our email address. Also at HoustonArtsAlliance.com/grant-opportunities. As well as in the contact us page, you'll be able to submit a support desk ticket, and we'll reach out to you really, really quickly to set up an appointment and talk about your application. And this is who we are. So I'm Sharif Rabi again, grants coordinator, data manager, and you met Taylor and you met Paulina, and thank you again for joining us. Let me take a look at these questions.
Okay, Sharif, thanks so much for that presentation, for giving us all of that information. We really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and start in with a couple of the questions. I've received a couple that you may not be able to view, but I'll go ahead and read those for you, and just let me know if you need me to repeat them for you, Sharif, and for Taylor to respond to. All right, so this question is from Atul. If the final report is submitted on July 31st, 2024, because the event completed in the first half, how soon after the final report is submitted are the final payments dispersed?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll pass it off to Taylor to get into that.
So just to make sure I understand the question, it's how soon after you submit the final report is the final payment dispersed?
Yes.
Yes. So at the end of your grant term, you have 30 days to submit the final report. Once the final report is received, it is reviewed. And the final payment is dispersed from finance after the grants department has approved your final report. So it depends on if you have revisions that we request. Let's say you submit the final report, everything is there. I think we ask for 14 days. Is it 14 days to turn around and answer for the final report if it has been approved or not? And then after it has been approved, there's typically another 2 to 3 weeks for the payment to actually show up in your bank account.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for answering that, Taylor. All right, Atul, wonderful. Glad that that helped you. All right, if you don't have any other questions, Atul, I will move on to our next question received from Yemi. The festival grant has been at a max of $10,000 for many years. In view of inflation, are there any considerations to increase the amount?
So that is something that we would actually have to talk to the grants committee about, to the city of Houston about. We as a team could not make the decision to increase the amount ourselves. However, I will tell you something else that we have been considering. The historical allocation for a festival has traditionally probably been the smallest percentage out of the other grant programs that we have. So something that we are researching right now is our ability to increase the percentage of funding that goes to festival in order to make room for more applicants to be awarded. Festival is probably our most competitive grant program, and there are a lot of really exciting projects that are coming in that historically may not have been funded simply because of the cash in hand that we had available. So in order to amend that, we are looking to increase the amount of cash in hand that we have available to award to festival applicants, again, as a way of making room for more applicants applying to the pool to be awarded. That has not been quite finalized yet. It is in the works. We have to get MOCA's approval on that, but that is something that we're researching and working on.
All right, thanks, Taylor. I have not received any other questions. Feel free, those of you who are still hanging on for Q&A, feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to go ahead and just voice a question instead of typing it in. We're happy to also take those questions live. All right, then that just means, Sharif, you did an amazing job. We don't have very many questions, so thanks again. And
Amen. Good job, Sharif. I would like to just find out that same last question that I had asked earlier for 2024. What about for 2023? If we were to submit that, say at the end of this month, same time frame, you think it'd be like 14 to 21 days for you guys to review it and approve it, and then send it in for payment, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Atul.
Okay, phenomenal. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. I would second that comment about, with inflation, well, I would just say being where it is, everything seems to have gone up, 25 to 30% at least from the festival perspective. So we're dipping into other pockets. It would be helpful to see if you guys can make some other arrangements as well. But you guys all know that it hurts everyone's pocketbook, and we don't want to reduce the options and available to our the folks here in Houston as well. So thank you.
Yes,
for listening.
thank you for that. Thank you.
you.
And thank you for that feedback. I also want to say, every year at the beginning of the year, the grants team puts together an evaluation, and that evaluation serves as a mean for us to evaluate our grant programs and how responsive we're being to the needs of the community. So community input like this, you expressing what the needs are is really helpful for us, because we can collect that information, prioritize it in the evaluation, and then research solutions to try to help address these needs. So the team is making note of this, and we will, explore ways that we can engage this concern that you all have in the evaluation for 2024.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Any other questions, Michelle?
I did have a question. So I'm new in my role here at my organization, and we have received a grant from you guys in the past. And I guess my question, I may need to just take offline directly with one of y'all, really has more to do with I started the process, so I see that there's the online application through the Houston Arts Alliance, and then there's the SMU funder grant report that I need to work on. And my question is more as relates to that report, that funder report. I have some questions based on what I see we have done historically as an organization, because I'm seeing some conflicting information, meaning two different people, I think, did these reports in the past. And so it's really specific to our organization and how, whether we're a parent of an entity, that kind of question. Who would I talk to get some help as I dive into this?
So that link tree that we've dropped into the chat, there is a link for you to request a meeting with the grants team through our support desk. If you
Okay.
click on that support desk link and schedule a meeting with us, the grants assistants and grants coordinators will be able to assist you in working through that data arts report.
Okay, great. So I just click on the HAA support desk and set up put my information there. Great. I'll do that because I don't want to make any assumptions since this is my first time, and I want to give y'all it's confusing because I have two different reports I'm referring back to, and they're in conflict with one another. So all right, thank you.
I will also add, Michelle, whenever you set up that meeting with us through the link tree, also keep in mind for the SMU Data Arts, we are not the owners of that website. And so we also spend a lot of time referring people directly to SMU. So if we're not able to assist you, then we may refer you directly to SMU, and then they'll be able to look on the back end and give you a little more detail and information, more so than we would be able to.
Okay, well, I'll start with you guys and see if you can't give me at least the platform to begin with, and then I could go there for some more specifics, because I just don't want to set it up wrong, or give y'all the wrong information.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll be happy to help you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments, concerns? Okay, Sharif, we'll hand it back over to you.
All right, well, thank you once again. I want to emphasize how much we are here for you. Everyone at HAA, we are here for you. We want every one of your applications to be eligible. We want every single one to get to panels and to in the end be accepted. I mean, approved for grant funds. So do not hesitate to reach out to us. Send us an email at grants@haatx.com. Send us a support desk ticket, make an appointment with us. There isn't anything we won't do to help you. Just let us know what can be done, and if it's in our power to help, we're available. We're available to you. Just get those applications in by July 30th, and let's work together to get your applications to panels.
Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, well, thank you all. I guess this will conclude, and I'll end the meeting. Thank you once again. Thank you all.